Talking in my sleep at night, making myself crazy. Out of my mind, out of my mind. Wrote it down and read it out, hoping it would save me. Driving a chance. She made me feel like nobody else, yeah, yeah. She doesn't need me, so I to myself. One, pick up the phone, you know she only calling 'cause she's drunk and alone. Two, don't let her in, you have to kick her out again. And three, don't be a friend, she only gonna wake up in your bed in the morning. If you run to her, you are getting over her. I got no rules, I count. I got no rules, I count. I gotta tell them to myself. I got no rules, I count. I gotta tell them to myself. Word for me to say this, but it's coming from my heart. It's been a long time coming, but wait up, it fell apart. Really wanna work this out, I don't think you're gonna change me. I do, but you don't. Think it's best we going separate ways now. I should stay in this relationship when I'm hurting, baby. I ain't happy, baby, 'cause there's so many other things I gotta deal with. I think that you should let it burn. Oh, your body is a portal, let it go, 'cause the party ain't moving like it used to. Even though this might be, let it burn. Let it burn, ooh, let it burn. Deep down, you know it's best for yourself, but you hate the know we you know that it's over. Let it burn, oh baby. No, bitch, you can't fuck with me if you wanted to. These expensive, these is red bottoms, these is bloody shoes. Hit the star, I can get them both. I don't gotta choose, I'm cool to the bitch off, so don't get comfortable. On dance floor, make money move. I don't gotta dance, I make money moves. If I see you won't speak, that means I don't fuck with you. I don't ask you to work, so make bloody moves.
All right, hello everyone. We have got one viewer. All right. Thank you for tuning in. Today, I'm going to talk briefly. I'm not going to stay on for 3 hours. But I will talk about activism, solo activism versus group activism. Because I think there isn't enough discussion on effectiveness of activism as far as actually trying to find specific methods, other than criticizing other people for their methods. There isn't enough talk on specific ways to make your activism a lot more awesome than it already is, okay? And also, I think people are a little bit confused. They think that large groups of people doing activism necessarily makes it more effective. And I think that's a common mistake that people tend to make in groups, in activism groups of all sorts, as well as in business organizations. More is not always better. And a lot of times it can be worse. So we've got 3 viewers watching. I want to thank you for tuning in. Let's see who's in the live chat. Let's see. We have... Who's in the live chat? Why is my live chat not popping up? Okay, for some reason, the technology wants to give me a little attitude today, so I will check back in a few minutes later. But in the meantime, we've got some more books. All right, so the book list I put into the description already, but the book list is, and I've mentioned some of these already before in other videos. The 80-20 Principle by Richard Koch, K-O-C-H, The Secret to Achieving More with Less. There's the key. So keep that in mind. Today's theme is really about learning how to do more, how to get more with doing less. And that also translates into the amount of people that are necessary to make any kind of positive change. Okay? Because yes, there's strength in numbers. Don't make any mistakes about it. If you have a large group of people that are focused and on the same sheet of paper and organized and in union with something, that is definitely going to be a lot stronger than just one person. However, the devil is in the details. And getting a large number of people, heck, getting just a small number of people to do something together, to be on the same sheet of paper, is a lot more difficult than most of us probably want to realize. Um, and you can see it in the small communities in communities like the EXJW community, for example, it has sub communities within it. Okay, for example, you have people that are still believing in the Bible or religious, and then you have some that are atheists, then you have some that are neither of those and have other types of categories or labels. Then you have people that are LGBT. You have a subgroup with that, which might not be as accepted with the mainstream religious XJWs, the fundamentalist religious XJWs. So you have all kinds of sub communities within the community. But in any case, today I want to talk about why it isn't necessarily better to have a larger group of people doing activism. I know that that's something that we all kind of tend to hang on to. Like if we just had 1,000 people doing this, it would be a lot more potent, a lot better than just 4 of us. But on the flip side, you also have a lot more personalities to contend with that can distract you from the real overall purpose to begin with. You can get lost and you can get drugged through hell, because some people are, by nature, they're just walking chaos boxes. They are a magnet for drama and trauma. And you have varying degrees of people like that. You have a lot of people don't know any better. They don't know this about themselves. It's just one of those things they're just not ready to face. Otherwise, they're cool people, but they just have that, and you got to make a decision, because they will get in your way. They will get in the way of actually your actual original purpose to begin with. They will get in your way. They will distract, if nothing else, just for their own personal attention. Some of these people don't really have any other purpose than just involving you with some of their drama. That's it. Once they can get under someone's skin, it's like they're fixed. It's like a cigarette for someone or a beer or whatever. And I'm telling you, it doesn't really have to be a large group of people to do activism that is going to be effective. It only takes one person. Okay, so we've got Investing the Last Liberal Art by Robert Hagstrom. I mentioned this one before. There's a section in there I want to talk about self-organization and how nature is self-organizing. So it's one way to take some information from the social sciences and then take another look at the XJW community, at the Jehovah's Witness organization. You can take a look at your current place of employment, and you can even take a look and use this information in anything that you're doing outside of the XJW activism, any kinds of projects. Okay, so self-organization, we're going to be covering that briefly in Investing the Last Liberal Art. Let's see, we also have, the tipping point. The Tipping Point, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference by Malcolm Gladwell. This is another great book, whether you are a solo activist or you're working in a group or you're doing a little bit of both. This is still a great resource. This is something that You know, you want to absorb. You don't want to just read and say, oh yeah, I know the answers to all the questions about this book, but it's something you want to take in and absorb, because it's going to open your eyes as to how to really get something viral, how to really get something going. And it's not going to happen overnight. When things go viral overnight, a lot of times these people have been on YouTube for years, for decades. You know, it just took off because they built a whole foundation for a long, long time, and it seems like it just happened overnight. But this stuff doesn't happen overnight, okay? But there is a method to it. There is a method to creating a domino effect. It's not a chance, you know. It doesn't just happen to a few lucky people. There is a method to do it. It's called, one of the things that you are going to learn about is the law of the few, okay? The law of the few. So basically, in a nutshell, wait a minute, what is this? Oh, okay. But basically, in a nutshell, it covers how social epidemics work, how they're created, and how you can take that pattern and set up a social epidemic yourself, a tipping point, okay? And it also alternatively will show you and protect you from unscrupulous people and groups that try to coerce you into things that you might not be comfortable with, right? When you have that gut feeling and someone you like is trying to coerce you into doing something or keeping a secret or something like that, you know that gut feeling. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel quite right. Well, having the knowledge and the awareness, the lookout of that can help you to utilize it in a positive way, and you can also spot it right away when someone's doing it to you where you have a choice. Because there's a lot of folks out there that don't believe in consent. They don't believe in asking other people's consent for things. So, you know, just FYI there. And sad to say, they are in the EXJW community. But once again, like I said yesterday, this isn't anything out of the ordinary. It's nothing that isn't happening in other groups, in other organizations. And I would strongly recommend you doing some research on organizational psychology and family systems dynamics, just, you know, on the side, because it can be a huge eye opener and it can give you a broader perspective of things. And when you have these things happen, when you experience them, you know, you can free yourself of a lot of negative emotional charge and baggage, because you know, it doesn't ever feel good when someone does something unscrupulous to you or attempts to do that. You know, it doesn't feel good, but at the same time, you can understand the process, and you can quickly remove yourself from that and move on without being, you know, without your flow being interrupted, and, you know, leave that person to live their own path the way that they've been living. And, you know, it frees people up, and that's the name of the game. So one of the things that can happen with activism is that you can have a large group of people. You can have a healthy, let's say you have 100 group of ex-Jehovah's Witnesses, 100 people. They're in this one particular group. Let's call them super cool EXJW activists, okay? And this is a group of 100 people, and, you know, they've got a lot of videos. They're doing a lot, but they can't get it together. They're not all on the same sheet of paper, and it's 100 of these people. 100 of them. You have, of course, you have some power struggles within, right? You have some subtle power struggles, like on the surface, you know, everybody's smiling to each other and hey, and best buds. But then, you know, in the back shadows of the back mind of folks, it's always there. It's always there. It doesn't matter what group it is. It happens in families. You always have that one person, or maybe you have more than one, that says to themselves, I should be the leader. And they decide that I should do this and they should do that. they are convinced of certain things of the way that they should be, okay? And then you have another one there. You know, the more people you have, the more likely this is going to happen, where you have another person just like that. And now you've got these two people trying to gain the majority of the social influence so they can have the one up on the other, right? And so it's kissy kissy, smiley smiley, you know, on the surface to each other within the group, and the group looks cohesive. But then, like I said, you go beneath the surface and you see the power struggles very clearly. And a lot of times, the people inside the group are not aware of those power struggles and those vulnerabilities as much as people on the outside. And isn't that true for us XJWs? We can see the vulnerabilities and the flaws and the mistakes of JW.org and Watchtower just as crystal clear, right? But for some reason, the folks inside are just completely oblivious, you see, and it's biting them in the hindquarters, right? Financially and in so many other ways, you know. Public perception has definitely changed when it comes to the Catholic Church, let alone to Jehovah's Witnesses. So there's that. All right, the last one is Charlie Munger's, wait a minute, Poor Charlie's Almanack. This is Charlie Munger. And there are some good tidbits in there that I want to talk to you about. All right. Poor Charlie's Almanack, there's a quote from John T. Reed. Basically, it's this: you don't have to memorize a zillion things. The zillion things you thought you had to learn are simply variations. They're simply various combinations of the core principles. And you only need to ID 3 to 12 core principles that govern any field or any subject. Okay? If you're trying to really understand any given subject and get a big picture, the gist of it, you only need between 3 to 12 core principles. You don't have to know everything about it. Even scientists don't know everything about science. Even lawyers don't know everything about the law. Even doctors don't know everything about medicine. So in order to get the gist of anything, in order to back engineer the whole entire Watchtower organization, you only need 3 to 12 core principles. In order to back engineer Target and figure out how the Target business works, or the corner gas station, or to figure out how your family works. Now, that's a little bit more scary. I know we're going into scary territory there, but you only need between 3 to 12 core fundamental mental models or principles. And that doesn't change whether you're a one solo activist, a one-person show, or you're a 1,000-person show. The only difference is that you're going to have 1,000 more personalities to contend with that big group, on top of having to do and work everything else as anyone else would. So yeah, let's check in with the live chat. We've got 10 viewers right now. Thank you for tuning in. Appreciate you tuning in. All right, let's see who we have. We have Blue Collar Scholar. He says, good topic. Hello there, Terry Lawton. Yo, Bob. Yo, Terry. How you doing? Terry Lawton says, hey, Blue Scholar, great Warwick video. You know, that's true. I want to thank everybody that went to Warwick and did that. You know, that took a lot of courage, time, energy, and money. And I really appreciate all of the people that went. You did a fine job. We've got Southern Boss Lady. Hey, honey boo! Down with the tower. EXJW says, what? How you doing, bro? Blue, let me see. Obed V says, Jehovah, 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 Jehovah. Ah! Yeah. All right. So today we're talking about how joining a group isn't always better than doing solo activism or just having one or two people work it, you know. Not to knock groups and say that groups aren't effective or you shouldn't join a group. No, you know, groups do work very well. They can work very well. However, the disadvantages to groups is that there are more personalities to contend with, and you know your management system has to be a lot sharper. I think you have to be on the lookout more. So people need to have a lot more mental health, because you've got more of an incidence of a lot of traumatized people coming together, albeit they're coming together to try and do something really noble and something good. However, they're still human beings and they still have these issues. You know, it's like as if someone had insulin dependent diabetes, and just because they came together with you to do some activism, we're going to ignore the fact that they need to have their insulin at certain times of the day. You know, it's the same thing with the mental health issues, is that unfortunately there are people that are still suffering from uh, being abused, and they are not able to um, you know, keep things in that conflicts that are in their inner life. They're not able to keep from projecting them to the point where it interferes with other people and the overall goal of that particular group's activism. And that's not an uncommon story, you know. It happens a lot, right? And when it does happen, some people get really, you know, they get really discouraged about all of that. But you know, that's where it is, and that's kind of how the community is. But not every group, not every person is like that. So let's take a look. I'm going to turn to page 82 in the book called Investing, the Last Liberal Art by Robert Hagstrom. This talks about self-organizing. And if you read in certain kinds of biology books about nature being self-organizing and self-organizing systems, you will have so many things to read on for, I don't know, decades. And it is inherent in nature that systems are self-organizing. So what we have here, I'm going to read it to you. It talks about, in earlier chapters, we have identified economies, and this is page 82, by the way, and stock markets as complex systems. And we can also call the Jehovah's Witness organization a complex system. We can even look at other activist groups and look at them as a type of system, okay? So this system is composed of many elements. Many social scientists now start with the same assumption. They recognize that human systems, whether economic, political, or social, are also complex systems. We also know that economies and stock markets are adaptive systems. That is, their behavior constantly changes as individuals in the system interact with other individuals and with the system itself. So keep that in mind. Here again, sociologists now recognize that a universal trait of all social systems is their adaptability. Now, adaptability is not really a virtue of Jehovah's Witnesses. This is a lesson that you can take, whether you're in a group or a solo activist, because your ability to adapt, to change, to have self-awareness, to self-reflect, is going to be the key to your effectiveness. And this is the problem I've seen, and that you've probably seen too, with a lot of XJW groups that have started, you know, whether it's a Facebook group that starts, or maybe they do start a nonprofit, an official nonprofit. And then you look 5 and 10 years and 15 years down the road, and where has that group went? A lot of them have disbanded long, long ago. And one of the problems is a refusal to adapt. And whether you believe in evolution or you don't, the idea of adaptability is part of what the theory, and I'm going to stress the theory of evolution states helped species to survive was adaptability. Eat, breed, and adapt. And so that's a big important key here, adaptability. Harnessing your adaptability, And let's go further. From those pioneering scientists now studying complex adaptive systems, we can gain new insights into that great social system called humankind, and by extension into the functioning of specific systems like the stock market. So basically, some of this stuff, you're going to be able to apply it to all kinds of things that you can literally take home to the bank. Okay. One aspect of these systems is the formation process. How do people come together to form complex systems or societal units and then further organize themselves into some sense of order? This question has led to a new hypothesis that may provide a common framework to describe the behavior of all social systems. It is called the theory of self-organization. Okay, and lately we've had a lot of drama and different types of things in the XJW community with different individuals. So different groups have had different problems with each other. And I think this is going to be an eye-opener for a lot of people here. Check this out. The economist Paul Krugman has begun a systematic inquiry into the theory of self-organization, particularly as it relates to the economy. To illustrate the process of self-organization, he asks us to imagine the city of Los Angeles. So today we know that the city is one homogeneous landscape, but a collection of different socioeconomic, racial, and ethnic neighborhoods, including Koreatown, Watts, and Beverly Hills. Now, I've never been to Watts. I'm afraid to go there, but I've been to Koreatown and Beverly Hills, and I can tell you it's two different worlds. It's like different country. It's like one is Korea and one is America. I'm just kidding, I think. No, seriously, Koreatown is, a lot of the signs there, they're in Korean. People are not going to speak English to you. You better know Korean when you come to their store. All right, surrounding the city is a further collection of many distinct business districts. Now, each of these distinct spaces was formed not by urban planners drawing lines on a map, but by spontaneous process of self-organization. Koreans moved to Koreatown to be closer to other Koreans. As the population there increased, still more Koreans were drawn to the neighborhood, and thus a self-organized community also became self-reinforcing. So once these people started to gather in certain communities, and I think it's a natural tendency for people to do that. We are comfortable with people that look and think and act and feel similar to how we think and feel, that have similar values to our values and all of that. So I think that's a natural tendency. And as you can see, because they started doing this, it became a self-reinforcing thing. As more of the Koreans moved to that area, more of them wanted to move there. They might have started with moving their family there, and then they had more friends and relatives, and then their friends and relatives, and they conglomerated, right? As an immigrant, I can tell you, there's nothing that feels as good as being in a strange country and you see a fellow countryman that knows your language and you can speak to them and they know what it feels like to have immigrated to another country, to this strange country. It's you have a bond with them that you wouldn't have if you were back at home in your own country and you just saw them somewhere. It'd be just another person, but because you're now in a strange environment, this person now is a friendly to you, and we're drawn to friendlies, what we perceive as friendlies. So this is very interesting because this doesn't just happen in LA. It happens everywhere. It happens in corporations. If you look at where you work at, look at the company you work for. If you're going to school, look at how the school dynamics are. And look at who is at the top, who is at the bottom of the totem pole, what kind of political organizational structure does that company or that organization or that group have? It says here, we're on page 83, no central controller made this decision for everyone, explains Krugman. The city just spontaneously evolved and organized itself in this fashion. The evolution of a large city is a relatively simple example of self-organizing and self-reinforcing systems, but we can observe similar behavior in economic systems. Setting aside for the moment the occasional recessions and recoveries caused by exogenous events such as oil shocks or military conflicts, Krugman believes that economic cycles are in large part caused by self-reinforcing effects. During a prosperous period, a self-reinforcing process leads to greater construction and manufacturing until the return on investment begins to decline, at which point an economic slump begins. The slump in itself becomes a self-reinforcing effect, leading to lower production. Lower production, in turn, will eventually cause return on investment to increase, which starts the process all over again. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you about social systems and self-organization and this natural tendency. Now, this here was presented as a theory, but if you get the book and you look in the section on biology, I think biology is on the first part of the section, right after physics. He shows you how it all weaves together and how these patterns are found in complex systems or organizations like businesses and religious institutions, 501 nonprofits. So if you're thinking about starting a 501 nonprofit, this info is gold, okay? So let me see. Did I miss something? I thought I had something else I wanted to say here. Okay. I guess that was it. I feel like there was something else. Okay, wait a minute. Now on page 85, I think this is it. Self-organized systems have three distinct characteristics. First, the complex global behavior occurs by simple connected local processors. In a social system, the local processors are individuals. Second, a solution arises from the diversity of the individual inputs. Third, the functionality of the system, its robustness, is far greater than any one of the individual processors. So it goes on to say what particularly is exciting are the recent technological advances, specifically the introduction of the internet and its broad application. It is believed that the symbiotic combination of humans and networks, as in the internet, will generate in a collective far better results than any one individual can do acting alone. So this guy, he says that he envisions an unprecedented capability in organizational and societal problem solving that will result from increased human activity on smart distributed information systems like the internet. So basically, what I take from this is that, in a sense, if you're already a solo activist here on the internet, if you're already out here, you're already kind of in a group anyway because you're on the internet, right? You're already in a huge, complex information system. So in a sense, you've already got a million trillion workers helping you out, invisible workers, okay? People will share your videos. People will click on your videos. Granted, you have to work the social media. You know, if no one knows you exist, they're not going to find you just out of the blue. You're not going to fall out of the sky to people's awareness. However, once you get it going, you're going to see just how many people are willing to share or to spread your message. There's always an audience. Okay, so let's check in with the live chat. We've got 8 viewers. Let's see what everybody has to say. We've got JW Crisis in here. Hey, honey boo. All right, JW Crisis says, I just got out of a GB meeting, changing chastity belt now. He says, "Where is Jehovah Dog at? I miss him."
You better question me on nothing.
JW Crisis says ex-JWs are tired of organization. They are tired of meetings. That explains why they don't meet up. Problems are good. If ex-JWs got along, they would still be J-dubs. Problems and fights are signs of a healthy body. I totally agree. I totally agree. I think natural, normal people are going to have disagreements and there's going to be conflicts. It's all in how you handle conflict. And just because you think, and maybe it's true, maybe you do handle conflict very well, okay? Maybe you're a shining star in conflict resolution. But just because you're doing it, don't expect other people to do it or to be able to do it or to want to do it. You know what I mean? If you have these expectations, you leave yourself open to be manipulated and to be pulled into drama and triangulated into other people's unnecessary energy drains, because they're going to see that you need them to do something, you need them to behave, right? So, some people love to use that as leverage. Okay, that's what you need. Well, let me pull on your strings then. All right. So keep in mind that if you're on the internet, in a sense, you've already got a big, huge group working for you, okay? Anytime you've got views, you've got people that click like and share your stuff on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, you're in a group, in a sense, okay? You're in some kind of complex system. And we all are in systems within systems within systems. A business or an organization or an activist group or a nonprofit is really systems within systems within systems. And no system exists on its own. No system exists on its own. So there's that piece. Now, someone said that ex-JWs and J-dubs are tired of organizations, and that is probably a trigger word for a lot of people. I think it is. I think it is a trigger word. So when people try to say, let's get together and we must get together and unite in this cause and let's do all of this, there are some people that will naturally not be attracted to that idea. And it's important to have a voice for those people. It's important for those people to be able to speak their voices about the concerns. I mean, they just come out of an organization that they trusted and they got really hurt. And they know that a lot of other people have been hurt and are continuing to be severely hurt by this organization. So, forgive these people if they're not they're not in a hurry to run to your new group here that you're organizing. Okay, and once again, I'm not knocking anybody who's organizing things. I think it has its place for sure. You can't just have willy-nilly any old, however the wind hits your fickle ideas. You have to have a strategy and a game plan, and it has to be organized, right? I'm all for it, but to be expecting other people to fall in line with that view, I think it possibly borders into the realm of self-entitlement. And, that's not to take away from anyone's ideas and creativity and all of that. A lot of great ideas are out there, but that doesn't mean they necessarily need to be great for other people. If that idea is great and if it's working for you, then perhaps that idea is meant just for you. Or, whoever comes to you out of their own volition, where you don't have to work at coercing or cajoling or manipulating that person into joining your path, where these people freely come to you out of their own, and but other than that, I think that there's a lot of unique solo projects that people can work on that can be just as effective, if not more, than a whole group. than being with a 100-person group. So I think that's a really good point, JW Crisis, and whoever else mentioned that organizations, people are tired of organizations. They don't want to go and join another organization. They don't want to go to meetings and have to do these organizational things. So that's a really excellent point. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you feel that way, if that's your disposition, then I would say you can do a whole lot more as a single activist than you would probably be able to get done being part of a group. Okay? And that's just as good, right? All right. So 80/20, speaking of being a solo activist. 80/20 principle, the secret to achieving more with less, by Richard Koch. Koch. All right. I've mentioned this book a lot. I love this book. It's helped me a lot. I'm going to give you a brief summary, a couple of points here. This can be used both logically, analytically, where you have hard and solid numbers and analytics, but it can also be used with fuzzy logic where you use it intuitively, okay? So there are two different ways to use it. You can use a different combination of it. But the point is to look at the most effective things that you're doing, where your most effective methods are, and shave off the unnecessary things that you're doing. And the cool thing about the 80/20 principle is like, for example, if you go through your finances, all right, and you determine the 20% of your finances that are actually the most important, that attribute to 80% of your lifestyle quality, your current lifestyle quality, you can then extrapolate that even further. So once you get that 20% there, you can now look for the 80/20 within that 20%, if that makes sense. So this is an extrapolating thing that you can have fun with for the rest of your life. You know, you keep looking in different areas of your life where you can use this 80/20 principle. Surprised at how many different ways you can do this. And you know, sometimes it's a little scary because you find out things that about yourself that you might be wasting time with or time on, and you know, but it's so dang worth it. And it helps you to actually work less and earn more money and enjoy more money. You can learn how to get more out of your money. So you might not necessarily right away increase your earnings. You might not win the lottery tomorrow, but you might find a way to get more out of what you're working with right now. And you might find a way, better yet, to increase the quality of your life, where you don't necessarily have that big screen TV that you've been vying for the last 6 months. You don't necessarily have the latest cell phone that's out, but implicitly you have a lot more peace and joy, and the quality of your life just seems better, even if you haven't gotten those things yet. And you know, you don't have to let go of wanting whatever it is that you want. But this one here, how to think 80/20, that's a good one. That's in part 1. Part 2, corporate success needn't be a mystery. So this is it gives you kind of how to apply it in businesses, how to hook the right customers, top 10 business uses of the 80/20 principle. The vital few give success to you. So once again, the whole idea is you don't have to have everything. You don't have to know everything. You don't have to have a whole lot of people to be able to do some big stuff. It can be just you. It can be just you. And I'm willing to bet that there are some solo activists out there that are getting a lot of things done that might not be possible for some groups out there, because the groups are still not on the same sheet of paper. Not everyone is on the same sheet of paper. And that's a very common problem. It's a very common problem. I see that problem every week at the court when I help people with divorces and file their divorce papers and answer their divorce papers and their child custody forms and their paternity forms. Yeah, their established paternity. Yeah, I see that problem all the time. That's the culprit to a divorce, a dissolution between two people is they're not on the same sheet of paper. All right. So once again, this can also help you in, I would say, in a roundabout way. You could use the 80-20 principle also in back engineering the Watchtower and the JW.org organization, because you want to use this 80-20 and look for the 20%, the small percentage that holds 80% of the power within the organization. So you could start to ask yourself some really interesting questions from this 80-20 book when you go through it. Say, so who is the 20% of the organization that is responsible for 80% of the power? You know, who are the decision makers that account for 80% of how this organization's viability? If you're doing it, turning it towards your activism, you could look at what is the 20% of my activism that I'm doing that accounts for 80% of the results. Am I getting the results that I set out to get? And if so, how specifically? And what is it that I'm doing that's working? Because that's the 20% you want to tweak. And what is it that isn't working, or maybe that's wasting time, or that's just taking up space some kind of way? So 80-20 principle, the secret to achieving more with less. And the things you learn in this book, you're going to be able to take into a lot of other different areas, career-wise, professional-wise. So the good thing about your activism is that you can take this information and put it into practice, tweak it, play with it, learn from it, and then you can transfer it right on to wherever you want. And you'll have that with you forever. See? So let's take a look. I want to give you something a little bit more detailed from this. Oh, here it is. All right. So this is on page 148 in the section on working less, earning more, and enjoying more. It says here, 80% of achievement is attained in 20% of the time taken. Conversely, 80% of the time spent leads to only 20% of output value. Yeah, so 80% of the time we spend on activism leads to only 20% of the output value. Output value. Now here's where we can start becoming more and more self-aware. Just how much output value are you putting out, or is your group putting out? 80% of happiness is experienced in 20% of life, and 80% of time contributes only 20% of happiness. So you're only going to experience happiness in 20% of your life. 80% of the happiness is experienced in 20% of life. Oh, now that's pretty interesting. And, you know, these are theories, okay? This isn't set in stone, okay? Remember that these are hypotheses to be tested against your experience, not self-evident truths or the results of exhaustive research, okay? So you want to take this into account, take it into practice, try it out in different ways in your activism, test it out, and then tweak what works. See what works, look for the patterns, connect the dots, and bam. You know what I mean? You've got something really valuable there in your hands. All right, so let's take this further. Remember, okay, I've just read that to you. Still on page 148, where the hypotheses are true, as in the majority of cases I've tested, they have 4 rather startling implications. Here's the idea. Check this out. If you don't take anything away from this 80-20 book today, this is what I want you to take away. Most of what we do is of low value. So all of the ones that have been saying that this person's activism is bad and this person's activism isn't cool and this one over here isn't doing anything, most of what we do is of low value. Some small fragments of our time are much more valuable than all the rest. So out of 24 hours in that given day, there's only a small amount of time that actually counts for any of the value at the end of that day. If we can do anything about this, we should do something radical. There is no point in tinkering around the edges or making our use of time a little more efficient. If we make good use of only 20% of our time, there is no shortage of it. That's interesting, isn't it? So 20% of 24 hours is 4.8 hours. And 20% of 7 days is 1.4 days. All right, so keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Some really cool points to keep in mind, whether you apply this to activism, you apply it to your career, you apply it to your personal whatever hobbies. This is page 148, Work Less, Earn, and Enjoy More, from the 80-20 principle, Richard Koch. So as an activist, realize that most of the time that you're spending on what you're doing is going to have very little value compared to that small amount, that 20% of your efforts. Well, what is that 20%? Where are your 20%ers? That's where you need to be looking. And you will never, ever run out of time or resources when you keep extrapolating it. And what I mean by that, once you found that 20%, now you hold on to it, you tweak it, and then now you go into that and you try to figure out the 20% of that, because you're going to keep finding the 20%er of the 20%er, and it's just going to keep going and going, and you're going to sharpen yourself up so well that if you're a solo person, you can outdo what a 100-person group or an 8 million member group like Jehovah's Witnesses is able to do. You can outdo an entire corporation, an entire national corporation. And you know, we've seen this in the news and on social media where disgruntled customers that were treated bad, they tweeted, you know, they exposed a company, and it might have been just one person, and it went viral, or you know, they just had a tipping point, and that organization or that company had to scale back. They had to, you know, grovel. I mean, there's different stories out there. Everything from being sued to giving settlements to publicly apologizing to losing a lot of business, a lot of customers, you know. So more is not always better. Bigger is not always better. But I would say smarter and more efficient is probably always better. All right, we've got 7 viewers. Let's see who's in the live chat. Let's see what everybody's got to say. King of Faders is in the chat. What's going on, King? King of Faders says solo activism for me. Yup. The cool thing about solo activism is that you only have to deal with yourself. You don't have to deal with other people who might have other ideas about how something should be done, right? And that happens, right? It's bound to happen. Somebody is going to say, I don't want to hear that song on this live stream. And then you might say, well, this is my favorite song. Why do you not want this song? I just hate that song. That song triggers me. Well, I've ran this channel for X amount of years, and I'm 5 years older than you. And plus, I make more money than you. So therefore, that song stays. And then that other person says, oh, yeah? Well, I'll just take your password. I'll just change the password, and this whole channel is mine. And then the other person says, what? And then before you know it, the other person kicks that other person off. And then they make all the videos private, or they delete them. And then they say, ha, ha, Yes, I got you by the balls, motherfucker. Yeah, I got all the videos. And then, the other person just goes, wow, that wasn't very nice. So, yeah, you've got these power struggles all over the place. And what ends up happening is that innocent people, subscribers, people that listen into the channel, they no longer have those resources available to them. And you know what I mean? But yeah, that's something that happens, and you don't have to worry about any of that when you're a solo person, because the only person you have to contend with is yourself. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm a hell of a lot to deal with. I'm telling you, I'm a handful. Oh, honey. Oh, honey, you don't have to be like that, honey, boo. Oh, honey, boo. I'm looking through my notes here. Yeah. It's really all about discovering different combinations, and it's only a small number of those truly big ideas that account for the especially big forces that take over. And I don't know if you have this experience, but for me, when I take in books and information, it's like it becomes alive inside of me and outside of me, and there's a flow that begins to happen. And if I put enough mojo into it, the flow begins to affect others around me. I don't know if you've ever had that process happen, but it happens to me quite often. And it takes on a momentum because even though these people aren't officially in a group with you, it seems as if they're a team player. It's like I give an example. I have this police officer that I correspond with on a regular basis, and I recently found out that she has actually sent some of my resources to a whole slew of other police officers in her department. And it seems like people are coming on the same sheet of paper about that issue. And even though these police officers aren't officially in a group with me, right? There is a type of teamwork. You see, an invisible helpers is what I call it. You never know who's watching your stuff, who's taking it, and what they're doing with it, whether it's a police officer or an attorney, or a lawmaker or a senator or a judge, or a computer programmer or a newspaper person. These people can all be a huge source of help. And you just never know who's using your stuff to do some really great stuff that you wouldn't even have any clue about, And just because you only have 3 views doesn't mean nothing's happened. You only need one hub, and that's what The Tipping Point talks about by Malcolm Gladwell. How little things can make a big difference. All right. He talks about the law of the few, connectors, mavens, and salesmen. So here's the thing. You don't need to know a ton of people. But there is a certain kind of person that you need to know. All right. So check this out. Let's see. Where am I at? I'm going to read through. He has a lot of anecdotes and examples that he gives, but I want to read through. Okay. The success of any kind of social epidemic is heavily dependent on the involvement of people with a particular and rare set of social skills. This is page 33 in the Tipping Point. It's a national bestseller, How Little Things Can Make a Big Difference by Malcolm Gladwell. Page 33. It says here, these kinds of people are called mavens, connectors, and salesmen. Okay, and basically connectors are people that are social hubs. You know, the kind of person that knows everybody, quote unquote. We all know people like that. They just know a lot of people, right? They know everybody. Like I lived across the street from this girl. She's a woman now, of course, and I met her. He met her on Facebook last year. Again, after losing touch for a lot of years, you know, I moved away, and I think she moved to college or something like that. Anyway, we connected, and I looked at her friends list, and she knew so many people that I knew that I even forgot I knew from way back. And it's just like, dang, she knows everybody. And that's what you call a connector. It's somebody that knows a lot of people, that is very well liked even, okay? And they're connected to a lot of people. They're connected in the community. So let me see. It says here, let me see. Round up together. Okay. I thought I was going to tell you about this Stanley Milgram experiment that it talks about, but I'm going to skip over this for now and come back. Another one, yeah, connectors are people with a special gift for bringing the world together. What makes someone a connector? The first and most obvious criterion is that connectors know lots of people. They are the kinds of people who know everyone. All of us know someone like this, but I don't think that we spend a lot of time thinking about the importance of these kinds of people. And there's a simple way. Oh, okay. Yeah. I'm not going to go. I'm not going to go into the details about this. But connectors are your key, and connectors can be in police departments. They can be in law offices. They can be in stores. They can be your neighbor. Okay, you get it. Look for the connectors. You only need one or two major connectors to be a subscriber to your YouTube. And if they're on your Twitter follower, holy coly moly guacamole. I'm telling you, I've had tweets retweeted that I didn't think anybody was going to pay any attention to, and they were retweeted like whoa by a major connectors. I mean, their followers were into the thousands, and they weren't just like you know, randomly added just to get followers. These were organic, homegrown followers. Like when you look, they were all from one specific community interest area. You know, because you have some people with the Twitter following where they just, you know, random add people just to have followers, and this was not the case. Okay, so connectors are your key. Look for the connectors, okay, because they will spread and promote your videos. They will spread and share your content. Granted, it's of value to them and quality and relevant. Okay, all right. Another thing is you want to look at the kinds of people they know. You don't want just somebody that knows a lot of people, you know, because sometimes you don't want a whole community in your influence because they might not be a good match for you. Okay, so you want to be very selective about the kinds of connectors you're choosing and you're connecting to, and you can connect to a connector, you know, simply with an email. You can email police officers. You can email speakers. You can email organization heads. Uh, you can email anyone. And once they've emailed back, boom, you connect it. You're connected to a connector. Okay. And it can go from there. All right. Let me see. The next one they talked about mavens. Okay, this is still on connectors. I want to tell you about the mavens. Oh, here it is. All right. All right, so the mavens, check this out. A maven is somebody that has a lot of information. This is somebody that knows a lot of resources and information. And if they don't have the answer, they know where they can point you to it. And a lot of times that would qualify as like a research librarian. They would qualify as a maven, information maven, right? If it's a good research librarian. But you don't have to be a librarian to be a maven. It says here on page 60, under the law of the few still, in the Tipping Point book, it says the word maven comes from the Yiddish, and it means one who accumulates knowledge. In recent years, economists have spent a great deal of time studying mavens for the obvious reason that if marketplaces depend on information, the people with the most information must be the most important. Now, this isn't just for marketplaces, okay? And anyone can be a maven, you know? And remember, earlier I told you, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to know every single thing to be a maven. You just have to know enough of the right mental models and fundamental principles, and then you work it with the 80-20 and get the information that's going to be the 20% that's going to be responsible for 80% of the results you want. You see, you don't have to know everything. So check this out. For example, sometimes when a supermarket wants to increase sales of a given product, they'll put a promotion sticker in front of it saying something like everyday low price. The price will stay the same, be featured more prominently. When they do that, supermarkets find that invariably the sales of the product will go through the roof the same way they would if the product had actually been put on sale. This is, when you think about it, a potentially disturbing piece of information. The whole premise behind sales or specials in the supermarket is that we, as consumers, are aware of the prices of things and will react accordingly. We buy more in response to lower prices and less in response to higher prices. But if we buy more of something even if the price hasn't been lowered, then what's to stop supermarkets from never lowering their prices? What's to stop them from cheating us with meaningless everyday low price signs every time we walk in? The answer is that although most of us don't look at prices, every retailer knows that a very small number of people do. And if they find something amiss, a promotion that is not really a promotion, they'll do something about it. Ding, ding, ding. If a store tried to pull the sales stunt too often, these are the people who would figure it out and complain to management and tell their friends and acquaintances to avoid the store. These are the people who keep the marketplace honest. In the 10 years or so since this group was first identified, and he was talking about a group earlier, economists have gone to great lengths to understand them. They have found them in every walk of life and in every socioeconomic group. One name for them is price vigilantes. The other more common name for them is market mavens. All right? So if you ever wondered, just start cheating and pretending there are, special low prices like that, is because the market mavens keep them honest. And I think now more than ever, if any store were to try that slick move, they would be committing suicide, because with Twitter, between Twitter and Facebook and Yelp, wow, you can be slayed. Your business can be slayed and roasted within minutes. So but mavens. So you have connectors and mavens, information mavens. And these are people that know a lot of information. They're connected, well connected, on top of the industry, or on top of a group, or on top of a subject. Okay. And then, let's see, what was the last one I had here? What was this? Oh, okay. And then you have the salesman. And salesmen, I think salesmen, a good salesman, they know a lot of people's skills. They know how to sell and persuade and convince people. They know how to sell you on an idea. Okay, so once again, you don't need a whole lot of people to help you do what you need to do. It can just be you. And then when you do your social media, remember, you don't have to have thousands of followers or subscribers. Be grateful for every one of them that you have. And if you have thousands of them, be thankful for every one of them. But realize that it's not about getting as many people together as possible to do to get a particular goal achieved. That is no longer necessary. And it just takes a little research, like we've done today, to see that. And it frees people up. It frees people up from thinking that they're powerless, that, oh, well, I'm just one person, I can't do anything really that matters. That no longer is true. And it also frees people up to say, well, I don't have to join a group necessarily, but if I want to, I can still do that. And I have a way to filter out groups that might not be a good match with me, and to ensure or increase the assurance that I end up with a group that is a good match for me, if I so choose to do that. And it also enables people to have a combination of both, to be able to do both solo activism as well as sometimes help out in a group too. It all depends, right? All right, so we've got 6 viewers. Let me see what the live chat has to say. Let's see what the live chat has to say. All right, I'm going to refresh my screen. All right, so we have Neil Tucker in the chat. Thank you for tuning in. All right, we have King of Faders says, LOL, I really want to know what happened with Bad. I like everybody on there. Oh boy, King of Faders. King of Faders wants to know what happened with Bad. Well, I think, this is just my perspective on it. And like I said yesterday, I could be totally wrong, and I'm sure someone out there is screaming that I am right about now, But so there's that. But my view on it is that I think people got in there. Okay, so I think the owner there, the original owner, for whatever reason, he just didn't have as much time as he thought he should spend with the channel. He thought that he probably should do it every single week, like clockwork, like a meeting or something. Maybe he was feeling like he needed to have it regular and available to people for a source of support. And, he works a full-time job, and he's got everyday responsibilities like the rest of us. So he wasn't always able to do it, and he had some people help him to keep the show going. So when he wasn't able to do the show for a night or something, he had them do the show and offer support to the subscribers there. And somewhere down the line, it seems like the other people decided to just go ahead and take the channel over. And so they changed the password on him. He had given them the password to the channel, and he had trusted them, I guess. And so they decided that they were going to take over or to outvote him or something like that. And that was pretty much it. There was nothing he could do. He couldn't do anything. And I think later on they started saying he abandoned the channel. I don't know if it's true or not. But I think they went back and forth or something. They wanted him. I think he made it known to them that he wasn't happy with how they did things like that, and I guess they wanted him to be okay with the way that they were doing it, and he wasn't going to be, he wasn't going to change his mind on it. And I mean, there's nothing he could do. He couldn't get the channel back or anything. I think he even said he didn't want it, but I don't know. So I think they just they kept sending people to get him to go back to the channel, or to get him to have some kind of peace meeting, they said, or you know, to try and work it out. But I think he did even try to talk with them, but you know, nobody was trying to really see things. You know, they were, I don't know what happened, I'm confused, and I don't know, 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 I don't know. So nobody knew what they did. Nobody could understand what happened, and so there was no resolution. So you know, he just blocked them. He just, you know, decided to go his own way and let them be, you know, let them go on with the channel and move on. And I guess that wasn't good enough for those folks. They wanted a fight. They want drama, and they want attention, and you know, I don't know. Obviously, they're not wanting to do any more channels for the subscribers. They're not really interested for the subscribers like you, King of Fader. You know, obviously the priorities are different. So they just went ahead and deleted. Baby, you okay, baby? See, my cat's not very happy about it either. But you okay? Come here, baby. Come here, baby. Come here. Come on. What is that? Somebody got this treat. I'll be damned. They took the treats out of the drawer. These cats are something else. Gotta watch these cats. They know how to open drawers. All right. Yeah, I don't know the bad channel. So anyway, Josh, I think he just kind of the owner, the original, the first owner, the creator, founder. He had really no choice to just, you know, move on along. And then when he blocked, I think it's Amanda, right? Yeah, Amanda, and I think he blocked Amanda and Martyrdom. Excuse me, and he might block some other folks. Anyway, right before he blocked all of them, these people were coming to him, and they, you know, they were saying, you I need you to what were they saying? I need you to fix this. You know, I hate to see friends not get along and fight. And you know, it was nobody fighting. He just had blocked them and moved on. You know, that was the whole point, to disengage and, you know, move their separate paths. But uh at least one person there, probably what's her name? I'm a little tired, so I can forget people's names. The girl that's running it, but her and her friends, they I guess they got mad, or it wasn't good enough, or they got pissed because they were blocked. So then they were, you know, then they just took all the videos down. And I don't know if they're deleted or if they're just on private, but so I think it's a petty, childish move, actually. I mean, it's really childish, and it shows that, you know, those folks really aren't there for the subscribers, for you subscribers and listeners, as much as they're there for their own personal um, drama, you know. But hey, that's them. I told Josh, I told him he better not ever give anybody else his channel password ever again, not even to me. And if he does, I'm just fellowshipping him for 6 months. You know, hindsight is always better than at the beginning, right? And it's always easier for someone else to tell you, hey, it would have been nice if you had done this or that, you know. And you can sit there and beat yourself up and shoulda, woulda, coulda. But the bottom line is this: no matter how good of a friend that person is to you, no matter if they have a halo and wings sprouting out of their ass, there are some things you just don't do. You don't give them your password. You don't hand them your wallet. You don't give them your credit card. Okay? And that's not to say that you can't trust people. Okay? But you're going to learn in these books here, social science and psychology. If you open a door, someone is going to come through it. And there are a lot of people that out of their own aren't going to do anything. They won't steal, they won't lie, they won't, they won't do anything shady. But given the opportunity, some of those people will. There are people that if they think they can get away with something, they'll steal from you. Even if it's just a one-time thing. And even if it's something they don't even need, like a salt and pepper shaker. There's people that get high off of stealing salt and pepper shakers, and they have more than enough money to buy their own salt and pepper shaker. But the act of getting away with something, getting over on someone, on stealing, it's a high for them. Okay? So you have people that will steal your energy, that will steal your joy, that will steal your motivation, your determination. So it goes all down the list. But the point is, you don't want to give people the opportunity to do something unethical or shady. And it's like not locking your car door. Nobody's probably going to break into your car if you park it at work and you go to work and you have your car locked, right? But if you leave your car unlocked, sooner or later someone's going to go in there and steal something out of your car. Okay, and it can happen in the nicest areas. So you always want to lock your car, and this is the same thing. There are certain boundaries that we need to be setting with each other at all times, regardless. And this is the problem that I was talking about yesterday, is that we come from the Jehovah's Witness community, and we have this unrealistic view of people and ourselves. And we either go from one extreme to not trusting at all and to building walls on everyone, or the other extreme to completely trusting people with things that we really need to not let others have. So let's see what the live chat has to say. So King of Faders, does that answer your question as to what happened with the bad channel there? It's I personally, I'm going to make it clear. They have what's her name? Gosh, it starts with A. It'll get to me in a minute. But the girl that's running it now, she has sent a lot of people to try and get me and cajole me to come back over there. And I have unfortunately had to put her on block as well. And some of the other people that she's kept sending over to pester me to go back to the channel. Quite frankly, it's not a good match anymore. And quite frankly, I will not have anything to do with the channel anymore as it stands. As it stands, the people hosting it and the people behind it that aren't hosting it necessarily, they're just on a different path and wavelength than I am. And that is very, very crystal clear to me. And the more that that girl and those folks keep trying to send people and figure out ploys and ways to cajole me to come back over there or to enlist me in some kind of drama, the more I realize that my decision to go separate ways was the right one, because it lets me know that those folks don't respect other people's boundaries. They don't respect my boundaries. They don't really want to be my friend as much as they have a need to relieve some kind of conflict or pressure within themselves about this whole thing in the way that they've translated it. I know it hurts when someone doesn't want to talk anymore or whatever. I've gone through it many times in my life. There's people that have cut me off. My very first girlfriend walked out on me and completely cut me off and refused to talk to me ever again. And that was very painful for me. That was my first relationship, and that's how it ended. And at the time I thought, my world was doomed. But I was a kid back then. I was 19, and you grow up from that. You learn from that, and you learn that rejection is part of the game of life. Rejection is part of everyday life. You have hundreds of rejections that you deal with every day, and that's just how it is. You have to move on and learn to pick yourself up and move on. So And people need to respect each other. If someone has blocked you and you keep trying to, get at that person, um, it shows a lack of respecting other people's boundaries. Obviously, that person has blocked you for a reason, and you're still trying to pull them into some kind of drama for your own, relief or whatever the case is. So, I keep forgetting that girl's name. Oh man, I'm tired. JW Crisis says when the XJWs leave, they find that they are strangers in their own house. They were never brothers. Good life lesson. And Neil Tucker says, "Hey, got me an original Green New World translation today. £3 at a local charity shop. Mint copy with little dinosaur inside cover." Well, that's pretty cool, I guess. A dinosaur. Yeah, I remember that dinosaur in that green Bible. Hey, Gary, what's up? Gary says, wait a minute. He says, truth be told, I stopped watching when One Bun took over. Why and how? Let's get some intelligent insight. Oh, wow. You stopped watching when she took over? She wasn't your cup of tea? Did she bore you? Neil Tucker says, show my mom and dad my new Bible tonight. Needless to say, they offered me the new literature. Needless to say, I declined. Yeah, declined that stuff. JW Crisis says, I have never been on bad and never seen a video, but I'm glad it has helped some. Yeah. I thought even after I left, I mean, I didn't watch a whole lot of their stuff. I think the last episode I caught, like, I kind of just scanned through it because I didn't have a lot of time. Um, but I think there were one or two episodes where I kind of scanned through a few months ago that I thought were, that were helpful or whatever. I mean, just because I decide not to work with someone and decide that we're not a good match with each other, it doesn't mean that they aren't doing something of worth or value or helpful. So I thought it was kind of bizarre for them to just turn the whole channel off, including the videos that they had done. But I mean, this is the kind of flow that they have, and that's one of the reasons that I had to cut ways. I actually anticipated this happening, and I was surprised that they didn't do this earlier or sooner, because this is like a classic move. I mean, I honestly thought they would do this like 2 or 3 months earlier than they actually did. So, um, let's see. Gary, how come you stopped watching? You said after she took over, what was your reason? Oh, he says, I just wish that JW Crisis had been on bad to lend some real insight. It's a shame he wasn't invited. Yeah, they JW Crisis would have JW Crisis and a lot of these other YouTubers, when the thing starts going, there is a set purpose, there is a set flow. And when you have those kinds of people on your show, that means you got to have your set flow. Your flow has to be in sync with theirs, And I think JW Crisis has too much of a pull for him as a person that would probably take away from someone else's spotlight. I don't know. I'm just running off at the mouth. Who knows what I'm saying? I'm not, I'm just a little tired today. And, but, yeah, 3 secret keys to making your activism outperform entire groups and million-member organizations that can enable you to do this as a solo activist. Number 1, use the 80-20 method, which we covered in the 80-20 principle, and get more out of less. Okay, so you can get a lot done with a lot less time and a lot less effort than what you've been putting into it right now. That's the good news. Number 2, harness the tipping point. Okay, we talked about the tipping point. There's a lot more to it than simply connecting to mavens, connectors, and mavericks and salesmen. Okay, there's a lot more to it. So check out that book when you have a chance. I'll also be coming back to these books on future live streams and picking out certain ways that you can utilize it and implement it immediately. With the 80-20 principle, I want you to keep one thing in mind, though. Somebody needs to fix their brakes. Did you guys hear that? All right. Let's see. I'm hoping I can find the section. I guess I can't find it. That irritates me. You know when you really want to find something in a book and you know it's in there, but the very minute that you need it, you're not going to find it. I bet you I'll find it as soon as this live stream is over. All right. All right. Well, I do not like this. Oh, found it. Page 139. Haha. All right, keep this in mind. Become an 80-20 thinker starting with your own life. Okay. And he says here, I want you to lock on to the nature of 80-20 thinking so that you can develop your own insights, both particular and in general, which have not crossed my mind. I want to enlist you in the army of 80-20 thinkers, multiplying the amount of 80-20 thinking and let loose in the world. Okay? And this is with a relaxed and confident manner. So he says here, 80-20 thinking is reflective, it's unconventional, and it's hedonistic. Okay? Which means it seeks pleasure. It believes that life is meant to be enjoyed. So this is something pleasurable. This isn't something where you're constantly trying to figure out what you're doing wrong. No, 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 no. Don't go about it like that. Okay? The 80-20 thinking believes that most achievement is a byproduct of interest, joy, and the desire for future happiness. This may not seem controversial, but most people do not do simple things that would be conducive to their happiness, even when they know what they are. Most people fall into one or more of the following traps. They spend a lot of time with people they do not much like. About that, how many people are going to Christmas dinners with people that they can't stand, including their family? I'm just saying, how many people are sitting there with ex-Jehovah's Witness and Jehovah's Witness family that they might not be all too thrilled with? All right, it says they do jobs that they are not enthusiastic about. They use up most of their free time on activities they do not greatly enjoy. The reverse is also true. They do not spend most time with people they like the most. They do not pursue the career they would most like, and they do not use the most of their free time on the activities that they enjoy the most. They are not optimists, and even those who are optimists do not plan carefully to make their future lives better. All right? So, keep that in mind. This is about seeking pleasure. This is about enjoyment. It's unconventional, okay? So this isn't the old way of thinking. It's a new, fresh way of looking at things. And it's getting more out of less, getting more results out of less of your time and efforts all across the board. All right, so see, I think that was it, because the Charlie's Almanack, poor Charlie's Almanack, that was just that one quote by John T. Reed that I wanted to share with you. I mean, there's a lot more here. Let me see. Oh, by the way, if you're into advertising or writing copy, persuasive copy, not necessarily selling anything, but persuading people, check out How to Make Your Advertising Make Money by John Caples. Awesome, awesome book. All right. Okay. I think that's it for today anyway. Yeah. All right, let's see what the live chat has to say right about now. Where are we? So what do you think? What do you think about solo activism as opposed to group activism? Do you think it's more effective to be in a group? Do you think it's more effective to be alone and solo? Hey, something found, honey boo. Something found. I'm gonna play that song at the end of this live stream. I played it at the beginning, the same one that you liked yesterday. I thought of you and I said I'm gonna play it at the beginning and at the end of this live stream for Something Found. It is by an artist called William Singe. He is from Australia, and you ought to check him out. Singe, Singe, William Singe. And he's a really cool artist. He has some cool songs. He makes covers and remakes of different songs, and really love his flow. All right, let's see. Let's see what we've got in the live chat. King of Fader says, I can only imagine working with others. I argue with myself about the direction of my channel. Yeah, I know that problem too. You know, imagine having to deal with 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other people just like you with their own idea. You'd never get nothing done. You'd be too busy fighting with each other or trying to power play with each other or manipulate each other or trying to avoid each other or whatever the heck, you know. King of Fader says, I've been sitting on my video about overlapping generations. And Gary says, an important question, what is the brand of dog food that Jehovah prefers? And would you send some to Jeffrey Jackson? Well, Jehovah Dog probably likes roasted Jehovah. And I wouldn't send dog food to Jeffrey Jackson, but I might send Jehovah Dog's turds to him. I think he'd be a lot more appreciative of the turds, you know, since he's with a turd. Anthony Morris, the third turd. Hey, Evie Brooklyn, honey boo. What is going on, honey? All right, Evie Brooklyn is in the house. Thank you for stopping in. All right, we've got 13 people watching. I've pretty much covered everything, but I'll chill a little bit and talk. Maybe I can cover a little bit more. Let's see. Something Found says, yes, I make money moves. Evie, the real Evie, love you, lady. And Evie says, yes, I'm still alive. New channel, no content. What, is somebody trying to impersonate you, Evie? Hey, Mop Floyd, what's going on? Mop is in the house. How you doing, bro? How's your health? Are you doing all right these days? Is somebody trying to impersonate Evie Brooklyn? You know, that happens too. You got these people that impersonate other people, and they like to impersonate people that probably have a not so good reputation in the community and that start fights. Those people in of themselves are probably not all that, you know, submissive or shy or whatever you want to call them. And, you know, you have other people that pretend to be them to stir up fights. So it heats up that person that's already been fighting with people because those people are now extra stirred up against that person. And that person knows that they didn't start that particular fight. You know, somebody else is pretending to be them. So it just keeps, you know, these people are actually worse because you know, they're pretending to be people, and they start fights in the community. They create diversion and unrest, and for different kinds of social experiments. That's what they call it. You know, they want to experiment and see how well people come together, or how people react to certain things. And unsuspecting, unknowing, and unconsenting, these people never had a choice to even consent whether they want to be part of this. So it's a form of rape. It's a form of social psychological rape. It's not sexual, it's not physical, but it's rape in the sense that this person is going through something unpleasant, uncomfortable, anger and negative emotion and fighting. Even if you're not fighting, but it's around you in your community, it still affects you negatively. It nips away at you and drains you. So, um, and then if you're involved in it, if you're finding yourself in the middle of it, and it's manufactured, it's not even necessary, it's not a real conflict, it ends up hurting people. It hurts good people. And so I just want to put that out there. Be careful, everyone. If you find yourself in some kind of drama or conflict, realize that that might not be a real conflict. It might be a setup by some other person that's looking to see, that's doing a social experiment. Okay. So this is one of the reasons I always tell people, you know, if it gets too much, you know, don't feel bad if you have to block people, because 9 times out of 10, that might be some kind of manufactured social experiment or something. And you know, why would you bother being part of drama that's really someone's personal experiment on you and everybody else around you? You know, I think it's a waste of time. And like I said yesterday, the social experiment is a controversial thing. Yes, I was talking about social experiments. There are XJWs here. I don't even know if they're really XJWs now. You know, I've come to question a lot since I found out some things, but there are XJWs that are doing social experiments on the YouTube here and on the live chats. When there's conflicts and fights, sometimes those fights are not genuine fights. Sometimes these other people are creating these fights. My guess is to feed off of it in some kind of way. You know, they get off on it. But nonetheless, they're claiming it's a social experiment to see how well people come together in the XJW community. So I'm just letting you all know, stay sharp. You know, try to stay out of drama. I know it's hard, easier said than done. But if you do see fights and drama and conflicts, realize that not all of them are between the actual people, that there might be people manufacturing them for their own personal gain, whether it's just to feed off of the fights so that they feel like they have a measure of control. Haha, I got these people to fight each other, and they don't even know it's me behind it. You know what I mean? It can be a power trip for someone who has an otherwise powerless life, you know, or who has bought into the idea of being powerless. Um, and and then it can just be somebody who just likes drama, who just, you know, for whatever reason, just wants drama. So be careful, you know, stay sharp. If you haven't listened to the other recording, the other live stream yesterday, there are some books that can help you to increase the safety and the possibility of seeing the red flags. So when you notice it happening, you can distance yourself from these people in a safe way, to where you can stay safe, they can stay safe, you know, and you don't have to go through unnecessary pain and struggle and toxicity. And I would say that to anybody out there, really, not just in the XJW community. All right, let's see what we have in the live chat. We've got Zilda Devizin. Hi, Zilda. All right. Let me scroll back. All right, it says here, all good thanks, Bob, by Mop Floyd. And then it says here, something found. No, I thought it wasn't really her, Bob. Totally my bad. Who are you talking about? Zilda Devison says, do you know what is going on in Australia? No, what's going on in Australia? Evie Brooklyn, I don't know, Bob, but I just had to create a channel so I could get on the chats. Really? You can't get on the chats without a channel? Huh. Something Found says there's a fake Cedars account and a fake information account, and Lord knows who else, a fake informant. Yeah, I noticed there was a fake informant, and I think there's more than one fake informant. More than one person faking the informant thing, because a couple of different informant accounts tried to message or post on my channel here, and I knew it wasn't her. They had her main profile thing, because I believe ever since informant and I have parted ways, she's respected me on that, and I respect her on that. So there had been after that there had been a couple of different fake informant accounts that had tried to post comments on here, and I already had the feeling that that was not her. So I didn't know there was a fake Cedars account, but that doesn't surprise me at all. You know, with all the people that he's pissed off, you know, why wouldn't there be at least one or two fake Cedars accounts, you know? So, yeah, let me see. Mott Floyd says, hey, folks, there has been a significant fallout that I've missed in the last couple of weeks. Yeah, there's like 5 or 6 of them, man. There's like 5 or 6 EXJW drama thingies. Evie Brooklyn says, I have a few that troll me, no big whoop. Yeah, they do like to troll. I have you know what? Ever since I did that Kingdom Hall Crash video, I've had a lot of people message me with just terrible stuff. Faggot. They call me faggot and die fag and apostate and your father, the devil. You're from your father, the devil, and they threaten me with Armageddon. I was like, I must have hit a nerve with that. These people are just coming from everywhere, leaving all kinds of messages. Mop Floyd says, Bob was talking last night about social experiments. Yeah, Neil Tucker says, solo for me, I'm a loner, and it's the long game for me. Family and friends, just stay informed and keep patient, very patient. Yep. Blue Collar Scholar says, is the fake stuff Watchtower sabotage? I don't know, Blue Collar. I tend not to think that. I know that that can be possible, and I know a lot of people are very quick to say, oh, this is Watchtower doing this. They're sending, you know, undercovers in to split up the EXJW community. I had to drink some water. So, yeah, that could be possible. I tend to doubt it, though. I tend to doubt it. I tend to think it is just regular EXJWs with varying degrees of matchability. Can I say that? Matchability? I'm going to keep it neutral. You know, because I know I myself am not the easiest person to get along with. And sometimes I can be quite harsh and brash and intolerant and impatient. You know, I'm a normal human being. But I do draw the line when with certain things, though. I do draw the line, and when certain boundaries are crossed, I just don't fool with certain types of people. And they don't, you know, if they can't understand it, if they have a hard time understanding why that is wrong to cross that particular boundary with me, then it's time to part ways. I'm sorry, you know, if you don't understand it, there's nothing else I can say to you. The only thing I need to do and you need to do is part ways. You know, I wish you well. That's it. And you know, if you can't understand and you won't respect that, then we're crossing a whole other territory that is probably not the best. It's not really good. I think letting people go, you should just be free. Be free and go. You know. Gary says something found says F the gangsta stalkers. Yeah, I've been stalked once or twice. I've been stalked. I remember at 19, I was going to this club, and I met this guy that I used to go to school with way back. He was at that club, and so I hung out with him, and he just so happened to have this chick hang out with him, this lady, and she was his brother's ex-girlfriend. But she wasn't dating him. She was just hanging out with at that club with him that night. And so that's how her and we met. And I thought she was all right. I wasn't like all up on her or in her, but that night, I was tipsy. I was flirting. We danced. And she kind of grinded on me and stuff. And so I don't remember if we kissed or not, but anyway. So she wanted me to go home with her, and I remember sitting in her car, and I was telling her, no, I've got to go because I'm going to get in trouble with my parents if I don't come home before 12. And she refused to let me out of the car. She tried to lock me in the car and everything. So I finally was able to get in my car and go home. But she would ride by my house if I didn't answer the phone to see if I was home. She would ride by my house, and she would get on the voicemail, and she would tell me that she's riding by my house and she sees the lights on, so she knows I'm home, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, I ended up dating her. I was not very, very. I was dysfunctional. I ended up just like letting her date with me or something for a while, and I mean I liked her. She was cool. But I think now that I'm older, if I had to do that again, I wouldn't have went there with her. But for where I was, dating for a while, and it turned out all right, I guess, But yeah, she kind of stalked me and ride by my house and tell me she knows I'm home. Sometimes I'd have to turn off the lights, especially like on a Friday night or Saturday night, because she was like, I remember one time she had called me like 13 times in 2 hours. She wanted me to be at the club to meet her there so bad. And I I made an excuse like my car wasn't running. So she was riding by the house. She was like, I'll come pick you up then. Come on. I am right outside your door. So yeah, that was one person. Let me see. Uh, Oh yeah, I had another person stalk me, but not romantically. This person stalked me because I did a Yelp review on their business, and this person decides to. At the time, I made the mistake of putting a link to one of my blogs, and he got my name from the blog that I had up on my Yelp. He got my name, and then he went trolled all my social media sites, and from there, he started emailing me all kinds of covert aggressive letters trying to pull at personal things. He was. I remember him saying, "Oh, I read your Facebook post about your family situation," and he was trying to pull that in, saying, "I know you're a good person, but I'm going to sue you for slander on for this Yelp review, this untruthful Yelp review you did, and all that." And calling and calling and calling every day, leaving threatening voice messages. I didn't answer any of his calls because I realized the more he tried to get me to take that review off, the more he was squirming. The more somebody tries to pressure you to do something, the more they need something from you. So I was thinking, if he really was going to sue me, he wouldn't be calling me. A lawyer would be calling me, and he'd be shut up, because lawyers, what's the first thing they tell you when you hire them? Shut up. Let me do the talking, right? So yeah, he stalked me for a little while. I think for 2 weeks, but he got nothing out of me. I gave him no response. He tried every angle too. I mean, he went very low into the child abuse stuff with these emails, and I just recorded them. I printed them out, saved them just in case I needed to go further. But I basically just I just showered him with indifference. And I figured now, if he's going to sue me, which he wasn't going to be able to sue me from no Yelp review, but if he was, a lawyer would need to be talking to me. Otherwise, he's just BSing me, and he's just trying to do his territorial defensive posturing. The usual thing. A lot of guys like to do that. A lot of men like to do that. So no big deal. But yeah. Something Found says, awesome way to start the new year. My 2017 was inner peace. A lot of things changed for the better. I have to determine my 2018 now. Yep, that is true. Evie Brooklyn says, yes, and some people thrive on drama. Yeah, they do. Something Found says, oh my God, no thanks on that stalker girlfriend story. Wow, yeah. Yeah, that's all I can say. There's a lot more to that story. That particular girlfriend there. Yeah, one day I'll tell you more about her. Wow, yeah. All right, Mott Floyd says, damn, even though I'm an Adonis, I've never found anyone who likes me enough to stalk me. Yeah, I don't know if she really liked me for me as much as she probably had this fantasy in her head and happened to fixate on me. Uh, I think maybe it was more of that, but I don't know. Gary says, Bob, there are women who will not take no for an answer. Missy Lore, Shirley Rose, Holly Weinstein. It's hard to be a good looking man. Bob, we need to deface ourselves. No, I'm not going to deface myself. No way. Evie Brooklyn says, up your game, Mop. Talk about a stock portfolio. Mop Floyd says, my game is upped. You know, stalking, I don't think it's a good thing if you're being stalked. I think it's a scary thing. I think it's a really scary thing. But, what is stalking? Some people like to throw that term around. You know, I think driving by someone's house when they're not answering the phone to see if they're home, I think that probably qualifies as stalking. Doing a background check on somebody that is a little questionable to you is not stalking. I mean, we all can do background checks on each other. And that's another thing I would advise anybody. If you're joining a group, if you're thinking about joining any kind of group, whether it's an EXJW group or a church, especially a church, excuse me. But even if you're looking for to get into some kind of company, right, or you're, excuse me, pre-qualifying prospects for your business, it's always good to do a background check. Now, you can get an E-Verify account for a very small amount of money, and it can help you to find some information. E-Verify is not completely thorough. You'll probably need a combination of things if you really want a thorough background check on somebody. But you're probably not going to run a background check on every single person. But you do want to run background checks on any groups that you are thinking about joining and working with on any kind of level. Number one, you want to do a background check on the people that are in charge of that group. Who is in charge? And not just the people that are on the surface in charge, but also the people that are behind the scenes, behind the curtains in charge. Okay? And every group is different. For example, it's easy to think that the CEO or the president of a corporation is the head person in charge. But a lot of times, he or she is not the person in charge. The assistant is the one in charge. The assistant. Think about it. The assistant has all of the schedules, all of the meetings, all of the important things for every single day for that executive in their hands. The personal assistant there, or the executive assistant, whatever the title is, right? And that is also a gatekeeper. That person can keep you out from ever talking to that key executive. And that person can influence it. And if that person is a male and the assistant is a female and a reasonably attractive personality and physically attractive female, even though they might not necessarily have a romantic or sexual physical thing going on, the dynamic of male and female partnership plays a heavy influence on that executive's decision and ultimately on how that company rolls and flows. Okay, so here's an example of what I'm telling you. You want to know the power structure, not just the obvious superficial one that everyone sees on the outside with the titles, president and executive, but you also want to know who really has the power and to what degree. Another person in a corporation that has a lot of power is the folks in the purchasing department. Make no mistake, the people that are able to allocate monies and budgets and supplies to different departments, those people have a lot of power within a corporation. Okay, you wouldn't think of it, at first glance. You'd say, well, the president should, and then the next one should be the vice president, and then the next one should be this, or the board members, right? But not always. Every group dynamic is different. Every family's dynamic is different. If you have a Jehovah's Witness family and they say, well, the man is the head of the house, not every Jehovah's Witness family has the man as the head of the house. Now, officially, the man is the head of the house, but in some families, the wife or the mother is the one running the show with the ultimate leverage. And we all have seen this, right? So this is something you also want to take in mind. And do background checks on people. If these people don't want to give you their real names and their real faces, then you need to rethink your amount of involvement with these people, because these are people you don't know. These are people you don't know. If you're dealing with a bunch of decoy profiles that don't really have anything identifying, you don't really know who you're dealing with here. Do you really want to get involved in a group setting for activism with these people? Just something to think about. And even if you do have people with real names and faces, you want to do a background check on them, even if they seem nice. Even if they seem like they wouldn't have any, you're like, oh no, I don't need to do a background check on him or on her. People do background checks before they hire you for a job at McDonald's. They're going to do a background check on you just so you can go over there and flip burgers. Why would you not do a background check on someone who's going to work with you on such sensitive things like EXJW activism? Why would you not? You see? Not everyone in this community is EXJW even. And I'm not talking about watchtower informants or undercover watchtower people. I'm just talking about people who pretend to be EXJW for a sense of community. Yes, there are people like that. Last year, I can't remember the name, but I was talking to someone this morning, and they were like, you don't remember that when we found out that he didn't really know anything about the JW lore? He had been pretending like he didn't know anything about 607 BC or nothing like that. And I was like, yeah, I remember that. And it was somebody who had played off being an EXJW, and the conversations he couldn't keep up. He didn't know anything about 607 BCE and you know, those convention Danishes that we used to have, and all these things, these little things that, you know, anybody who's been a J-Dub knows. And so we realized this person was not a true ex-JW, and he finally was busted for pretending to be an ex-JW so he could have some sense of community somewhere. Okay, so keep that in mind. And I always think that when I deal with people with decoys, and you know, they don't have real names and fake aliases and things like that. I just you know what I mean? They don't go past that, but yet they want me to hook up with them in a group setting, in a group project, you know. And I say, be careful of who you work with. If you do a group, you want to verify them, and you can do that through E-Verify. You can also get a LexisNexis subscription. It's a little bit more expensive, but you know, depending on how sensitive your work is and how safe and secure you want to be. Excuse me. And also, you can look up people, and even if you do have real names and faces, sometimes you will discover things about people, you know, their past or whatever, and it gives you the option if you want to continue dealing with that person in that way. And you know, I'm not saying that people don't make mistakes, okay, but for example, if you were thinking about working with someone and you find out that maybe they've had some issues with being a little bit trustworthy in the past, you know, you can still be their friend, but you might decide, you know what, I'm not going to trust them as much. You know, but you know, we can still, you know, be friends, and you know, you keep them at a safe distance, something safe for you. Or you could say, you know what, that was in the past. This guy's cool. You know, I don't think he's, you know, that was a long time ago. But at least you have the knowledge. At least you know who and what you're dealing with. Okay, that's all I'm saying. All right, and you want to give that to yourself. You want to give yourself that knowledge, because if you start seeing red flags with someone, you won't be as disappointed to see them and then say, oh, I had no idea that this was going to happen. I had no idea this was coming, you know? So you want to go ahead and make sure that you do a background check on people that you're going to get intimately involved in, as far as the group setting in your activism. That's all I'm saying. It says here, Mott Floyd. What happened to this? I thought I saw you. Mott Floyd says here, fucking hell, Bob. Someone posed as an ex-JW. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I forget the screen name, but it was a couple of people in the last several years that I've been part of the community that I've seen, and I've suspected a couple of more. Like I suspect that Jesse Lopez guy. I don't know if you know who he is. I have my doubts about him being ex-JW, and then I think some ex-JWs might really milk their ex-JW history for more than they probably, you know, for more than is kosher. I don't know. Yeah, but LexisNexis finds a lot, doesn't it? Something found. Yup. Evie Brooklyn says, my friend runs background checks with guys she likes. Yup. I advise everyone to do a background check. Evie Brooklyn says, people prey on XJ dubs because many still have the Watchtower mind screw. Yup. That is so true. Mott Floyd says that's as perverse as posing as a leper to be popular. Yup. There are people that will pretend to be handicapped, or that will even handicap themselves to get sympathy. That's another type of narcissism. These people don't their currency isn't admiration, you know, or deference to them. Their currency is getting your sympathy. And think about it. Sympathy, you can get away with murder, right? So sympathy is the ultimate currency. I've known someone like that too. He could actually walk, but all the time I known him, he was either on crutches or in a wheelchair until one day I saw him walk. And I couldn't believe it. In all the 8 years I'd known him, he had told me he can't walk. And I said, dude, you can walk. What the hell? And he just stared at me, looked at me, went into the bathroom and closed the door. And that was pretty much that. And then when he came out, he was back into the wheelchair. Yeah. Yeah, that dude got a lot of sympathy. He got a lot of people to send him things over the internet. Laptops, cell phones. He had 3 or 4 cell phones. He had an LG pad. He had an iPad. He had a 60-inch flat screen liquid crystal television still in the box in the closet. He had 2 laptops still in the box in the closet. He had a desktop gaming computer system. Wow, his monitor was nice. Wow, the resolution on that. Wow. And somebody had bought him that. Yeah, he didn't have to work. He got a welfare check, and he had all kinds of people from the internet, from different chats and gamer forums that, you know, he became friends with over the years, and he worked them. He worked those people. He even had me send him stuff. I sent him a couple of things because I felt sorry for him at one time. But when I saw how he lived, I was like, whoa, you got it better than me. Shoot. I had never had a nice computer like that. And I've had some nice computers, but hey. So he was running game on people. Evie Brooklyn says Jesse Lopez wrote me a disgusting PM. Yup. Sour Blaze Hayes says, hey, 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 Sour Blaze Hayes. Sour Blaze, do you like to blaze up? Oh, Mop Floyd. Be glad you don't know Jesse Lopez. He's a strange guy. He used to bug me to call him, and then he would say these weird things on the phone. I called him once, I think, for like 3 minutes, and I had to hurry up and get off the phone. He was just he was saying these strange things, and I don't know. I got the creeps from it. Honestly, I just felt like I needed to just keep a distance, you know. But I saw he was harassing some other people or cursing them out. I think he cursed out 411 Big Boss or something one time. I don't know. I was told he only does that when he's drunk, that he's actually a different person when he's sober. So who knows? But whenever he's drunk or whatever he's doing, I stay away from that person too. Is that the Saved by the Bell looking youth from California? No, this dude does not look like Saved from the Bell. I don't know what he looks like, but he's not that. Yeah, Amy Brooklyn says, Mop, don't bother. It's not worth it. All right, good night, Gary. I'll see you later then. And have a good night. No, is that... Who's leaving? Something Found? Are you leaving? Well, if you are, have a good night, Something Found. So yeah, everyone, I think we've about covered everything. Hold on, though. So unless anybody has any kind of question about it, I think I'm going to be ready to take a conclusion to the show. But I did want to let people know about the fact that your activism doesn't necessarily have to be a certain way. And while large numbers can help, the traditional methods can work. Don't be afraid to use the newer technologies, and don't fall into the cult trap of thinking you have to know everything, or that you got to know, you're going to have to struggle through this, because that's not the truth. And if you are in a group, don't necessarily fool yourself into thinking that your group is more effective than what you could do on your own, because you might just be wasting most of your time dealing with other people's dramas, and expending energy dealing with conflicts of other people and your own, and triangulations, people projecting their own family dysfunctions on each other. And that's I see that all the time. We tend to do that to each other, and it can get in the way. So Evie Brooklyn says JW Struggle made a video about Rose Olives going back to the Kingdom Hall because EXJWs were mean to her. Really? Okay. Nigel Rowley says Jesse did a video about me where he said that he liked my style. Okay. His friend Rose Olives, aka Chombra Castro, aka Caribbean Ocean, punked JW Struggle saying she needed help. Yeah, you see, there's a lot of these kinds of, I call them freeloaders and parasites. They nip at energy, they nip at people's wallets, at sympathy. You see them everywhere. So, but anyway, everyone, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. We've got 13 people tuning in. I want to thank all of the listeners and watchers here and in the future. Keep up the good work. Understand that even if you're just one person, you can get just as much done as a big group, and maybe even more, because you don't have to deal with the group dynamics of drama. You just got to take care of your own drama. But on the other end, if you are in a group, make sure you're in a good group where everybody's on the same sheet of paper and they're healthy and it's not a toxic vibe, and there aren't secrets between people and divisions and things like that. And if you do see the divisions, understand that there are people doing social experiments on us here. There are people looking to do that, and they have been doing that. And so be skeptical about any kind of online fights or drama. Understand that maybe it's not always the people that you would think are fighting. Maybe it's also staged and manufactured by other people who, for whatever reason, want to feed off of it, or they want to experiment on people and whatever it is they're doing. All right. Okay. Thank you for tuning in. Have a good one, everyone. I'm going to play this song for you, Something Found. Bye-bye, honeybees. Love ya.
Talking in my sleep at night, making myself crazy. Out of my mind, out of my mind. Wrote it down and read it out, hoping it would save me. Driving me chance, so that I trust. She made me feel like nobody else, yeah. She doesn't make me so to myself. One, pick up the phone. You know she only calling 'cause she's drunk and alone. So don't let her in. You have to kick her out again. It's free. Don't be afraid. She only gonna wake up in your bed in the morning. If you run to her, you were getting over her. I got no rules, I count. I got no rules, I count. I gotta talk to myself. I got no rules, I count. I gotta talk to myself. Hard for me to say this, but it's coming from my heart. It's been a long time coming, but we done been fell apart. Really wanna work this out, I don't think you're gonna change me. I do, but you don't. Think it's best we go our separate ways. I should stay in this relationship. When I'm hurting, baby, I ain't happy, baby, 'cause there's so many Of the things I gotta tell you, I think that you should let it burn. Oh, taking your body to photos, you know, let it go. 'Cause the party ain't nothing like we do. Oh no, you know this life, you let it burn, let it burn, oh, let it burn. Take that, no regrets for yourself and you. Hey, you know me, you know that it's over. Let it burn, oh baby. No, bitch, you can fuck with me if you wanted to. Easiest way, bottoms, just blood and shoes. Hit the stop, I can get them both. I don't gotta choose. I'm cool to the bitch, also don't get comfortable. On dance, yeah, I make money move. I gotta dance, I make money moves. I see you wanna speak, that means I don't fuck with you. So make bloody moves.
All right. See you later, everyone.
Bye bye, honey.